Will the aldermen please take their seats, please? Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. And today is May 15th, 2019, and this is the final night of the 2019-2020 Board of Aldermen budget deliberations. Will everyone please join me as we salute our flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Is there a motion to come out of recess?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
There's a motion to come out of recess. Is there a second? Second. Is motion to come out of recess and a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We're out of recess. Madam Secretary, will you please take the roll?
Alderman Anderson,
Present.
Alderman Beatty,
Present.
Alderman Fortunati,
Alderman Fortunati would like to be excused, Madam Chairman.
Alderman
Madam Secretary.
Alderman Gaynor, Alderman Gurman, Alderman Genentasio, Alderman Golden,
Here.
Alderman Grant,
Here.
Alderman Hardeman, Alderman Smith, Alderman Sutton, Alderman Tranquilli, Alderman Veccarelli,
Here.
Alderman Vitro,
Here.
Alderman Vitale. 14 present.
We have 14 present. We do have a quorum. Tonight is the final step in the budget process. I'd like to thank the mayor, department heads, the finance director and his staff, as well as the Board of Finance, the superintendent of schools and her staff, and the Board of Education. I'd also like to thank the members of the Board of Aldermen who have put in many days and hours considering this budget. Each year, we need to do the hard work to understand all the needs and wants of each department, as well as the 55,000 residents in the city of Milford. The board needs to find balance between our citizens, students, and senior citizens and adapt the budget that's in the best interest for the entire city. At this point, we will start our deliberations with the first departmental budget, Board of Aldermen, on page 14 of the budget books. Alderman Veccarelli, please begin with the Board of Aldermen budget.
We're not doing it. Are you going to recognize Frank to do that?
Alderman Frank Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a thought, we have all of these budget hearings and we go over all of the details of each account. I thought it might be useful and save a lot of time if perhaps we could vote on the entire budget as presented and as discussed up to this point, and which is detailed in what we're going to call Exhibit A, the final voting fiscal year 2019-2020. That is to say, we could vote on the overall budget and then come back to make any necessary amendments or adjustments that this board wants to present here tonight. In other words, I'm not suggesting we just adopt the budget as presented by the Board of Finance. We're going to adopt the budget as considered up to this point, and then any amendments or adjustments to any of these departments or accounts can be done by members of this board for further consideration and debate. So I'm going to make a motion to approve fiscal year 2019-2020 budget as recommended by the Board of Finance and as further revised in accordance with the adjustments sent forth in Exhibit A, which we should all have, the thing we get every year, and any further adjustments or amendments that are presented by the Board of Aldermen here tonight. The Exhibit A has been presented and is on file with the city clerk and contains technical revisions for fiscal year 2019-2020.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Alderman Genentasio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to Alderman Smith, thank you for the suggestion. However, I feel it's more prudent to approach the budget in our regular fashion, block by block, motion by motion, but we do appreciate the thought. Thank you.
Any more discussion? Alderman Vitale.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you to Alderman Smith. Frank, are you saying that we vote on the, I just need a clarification. We vote on the entire budget, the bottom line, we say yes to it, and then the option would be what? No, help me understand it.
I'm saying, Ray, we would vote on the budget as presented by acclamation, more or less, saying that we approve of it with the caveat being any other further adjustments or amendments that we seek to present and to debate tonight would also be included. In other words, all I'm trying to do is save us going through these bundles of accounts as we do every year. I think we've done it in the past. I may be wrong.
Remember it being that finite, but if we bundle them up already, so as we go through them, we just approve them or not and just take out that we want to discuss. So I kind of think it's more prudent to go through the blocks as we've had it. If it passes, it'll go as quickly as possible anyway. So even if we vote on the entire concept, we still are going to glean these things out and talk about them.
Yeah, to me, it was an administrative efficiency if we could go through it and go back and address those accounts that are important to us or that there is some room for discussion.
Right. I just think that because there is going to be room for discussion, there is going to be discussion, that we just take the blocks. And I just hope that you guys see it that way, that it doesn't come down to a partisan vote. Thank you.
No, I agree with you. It was worth a shot.
Please.
I would then,
Maybe we
Mr.
should
Chairman,
resend
withdraw my motion. Thank you for hearing.
Motion has been withdrawn, as well as the second. So Alderman Vecchiarelli.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the budgets for account 4111, Board of Aldermen, as recommended by the Board of Finance in the amount of $6,205. The account number 8112, Elections, as recommended by the Board of Finance in the amount of $105,000. Account 4115, Registrar of Voters, as recommended by the Board of Finance in the amount of $166,969. And lastly, account 4116, MGAT, as recommended by the Board of Finance in the amount of $25,250.
Motions have been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Alderman Vecchiarelli.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the budgets for account 4121, Mayor's Office, as recommended by the Board of Finance in the amount of $315,961. Account 8122, General Expenses, as recommended by the Board of Finance in the amount of $401,452. Account 4123, Community Development, as recommended by the Board of Finance in the amount of $127,937. Account 4129, City Clerk, as recommended by the Board of Finance in the amount of $403,775. Account 4131, Law Department, as recommended by the Board of Finance in the amount of $648,720. Account 4132, Ethics Commission, as recommended by the Board of Finance in the amount of $800. Account 4133, Probate Court, as recommended by the Board of Finance in the amount of $17,304. Account 4141, Board of Finance, as recommended by the Board of Finance of $1,047.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Alderman Giannattasio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you, I'd like to speak to account number 4121, Mayor's Office, to the non-rep position of Chief of Staff. Actually, it's page 18, thank you. With the salary increase, the mayor's recommended salary increase is $91,147. Previously, this position was held, same position, same amount of time, 5 days a week, non-rep position for $70,328. I've asked the mayor for a job description in regards to this new position. With the salary increase, it also includes a vehicle. The use of the vehicle during business hours, I was told. So my concern is with other departments, as you know, public safety departments especially, they're trying to make ends meet, and here we are, increasing a line item for a chief of staff, and the only thing that I got out of what I saw as far as the actual job description, really it seems like this person is going to be doing a lot of the functions that we expect from our mayor. So I'm concerned about it. I feel that this salary is it's excessive. It's not anything that the taxpayers are going to benefit off of. And if I didn't know any better, it seems like it's almost like a manufactured political position. And we know that this position is at the mayor's discretion. The mayor appoints the person to this position, and, we've had success on both sides of the aisle with mayors that have had this position filled for $70,000. And with this salary, it just doesn't seem fair that it's such a big increase, that it has a car. There's other departments out there that I'm sure can use the extra $20,819 for overtime, for training, for essentials that they need within their department. So with that being said, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to put forward an amendment amending the Chief of Staff salary back to $70,328 from $91,147, which is $20,819 less, which would bring the new department total to $288,795, and that's in form of a motion. Thank you.
The amendment has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion on the amendment?
Mr. Chair,
Recess. Let's try to keep it down to 5 minutes. Thank you. We're still under discussion. Any more discussion on the amendment?
Mr. Chairman.
Alderman Giannatasio's amendment. Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I know that there was some concerns and discussion about this position. You know, as you see throughout the course of the budget book, there's about 12 positions that have adjustments either up or down to the salary, to the grade, to the step. That happens about every year. Each and every year there's about that number of adjustments because this is how we tweak and revise the budget so that it is most nimble for the next fiscal year. This is one of the positions that is coming up for a change because it makes sense at this point in time. Milford has traditionally been understaffed, underfunded at the mayoral level. If you look at similarly situated towns and cities, we have just a mayor's assistant position as the only other executive level position. Towns like Stratford and West Haven and other towns that have about the same size population as Milford, not to mention the Bridgeports and New Havens and Hartfords, and even smaller towns have positions of the CAO, the Chief Administrative Officer, a Deputy Chief Administrative Officer, Chief of Staff, Constituent Services Director, all within the mayor's office. We don't have any of that. Those positions pay $120,000, $125,000, approximately 25% more money than is what's presented to you for this proposed adjustment. This is a position that demands a higher set of skills, a higher level of professionalism than what we had previously had in that slot, the assistant mayor. I provided all the aldermen, I think, after the last budget meeting with a set of the job description that we utilized when we advertised for a new position. And again, I would just suggest to you that in a city with 55,000 people, approximately 200 employees for the city of Milford, and a budget of $216 million, a position at the highest level is going to be worth its weight in gold because we have positions that are, assistants for all the other top-level department heads, whether it's public works or fire or police, down the road. This is something that I think will really benefit the community, benefit the citizens, and I ask for your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Any more discussion? Alderman Sutton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to speak against the amendment and in favor of keeping the salary line item the way that it is. I did receive those materials from the mayor and have had the opportunity to talk to him about it and see what Mr. Rosen has been doing in that new position. And that position clearly takes on a great deal more responsibility than the way that the position was previously cast. To go to Alderman Giannatasio's point with this is work that the mayor should be doing that is going to be pushed off on Mr. Rosen or the position of Chief of Staff, I think to the extent that that occurs is an effect of the mayor having so many things on his plate that there are items that are not necessarily mayoral duties, activities, things to discharge, but things that can be adequately handled by a Chief of Staff to allow the mayor to focus on the more higher-end items of city governance. Thank you.
Any more discussion on the amendment? Alderman Gurman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you, I have to support Alderman Giannatasio's cut. I just can't justify increasing someone's position by 30% while cutting or trying to hold all the other departments flat. It's been at this position for quite some time, and I just don't think it's the right time to do that. So I'm not in favor of adjusting.
Alderman Vecchiarelli.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to. I don't support this amendment. We have a better than a $200 million budget here, and we have the CEO here, the mayor, who has to handle everything in this city. He's like a one-man band. Now, he had an assistant before, but the job description for that assistant was nowhere near what this job description is. And for the most part, the mayor really had to still do just about everything. The assistant mayor would answer, the phone and try to take care of some of the small menial things and some of the people that complained and stuff like that. But this new job, chief of staff, the person that is in this position is very similar to some of our surrounding towns. It allows the mayor to take care of the big picture and make sure that all of the other departments are managed and taken care of, and it gives him an assistant. The police department has the chief and assistant police, the fire department similarly, and every department, they work together, and it's for the mayor to look forward. We're looking at a $20,000 increase in pay to get an individual, and if you haven't looked at the credentials and the job description, please do, because it is certainly worth the extra $20,000 a year. We are all penny pinchers here, and we all want to see our taxes lowered, but this is money that's well spent that will help the city of Milford further do the best business that we can, where we only have one guy in there. And so this assistant will do much more looking at the job description, and we're not looking at a big increase. It's $20,000 more, and this guy here that's doing this work right now is out there. He's hit the road, and he's doing a lot more work than I ever thought he could do. So I really hope that we can that we pass this new position. Thank you.
Any more discussion on the amendment? Alderman Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think the important point has already been touched on by Alderman Sutton and others, which is in an organization with over $200 million in revenues, if this was a private organization, the mayor is the chief executive officer of this city. The mayor's office seemed, from the very beginning, strikes me as being a very meager and very bare bones office with the number of staff, administrative people that are in there. I've always felt that way. If you compared this to any other town, West Haven, Stratford, Fairfield, the list goes on. Not only are the assistants paid commensurate with something much higher than that's being debated here tonight, but the mayor, him or herself, are paid much more than our mayor is paid in towns of equal size. So I think it is within the mayor's prerogative. I think that he knows what his office requires. I think that in this particular case, the job description, and it's not about the individual, it's about the position. I understand that. But I think the job description the mayor has provided adds a whole new dimension in terms of policy, in terms of dealing public relations that has never really been undertaken in the city before by any mayor's office. And I think that it's high time that we did it. And I think it's going to benefit the city much more than the small difference between the assistant mayor position and the chief of staff that's being discussed here tonight. So I am against the amendment, would like to keep the position funded as the mayor had requested and as the Board of Finance had recommended.
Any more discussion on the amendment? Alderman Vitale.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. Again, it's not the individual, it's the position, and I think that needs to be reiterated. The fact remains that the criteria with which the position is built in the tool set or skill set the individual comes with, obviously, is probably kind of taken from the existing person, and that might be Justin. And Justin, you do a great job. I've been in meetings with you, so it's again, I reiterate, it's not the individual. I would like to have seen something less in building up to that, maybe in a 2 or 3 step kind of thing, to go to that amount of money from a 70 it's a big jump, even though it is a change of title. But just to correct Alderman Vecchiarelli, the total budget for the city of Milford is $225,000, and I think the mayor manages 120 of that, because 125 of that is the Board of Education. Just a point of correction. So thank you.
I think it's million, not thousands.
That would have been a nice budget, but yeah, 120 million.
Alderman Giannatasio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you. I welcome the debate with my colleagues. I understand your position that you need to support the mayor's budget. It's obvious. You know, in the private sector, as myself, owning a small business, you know, I don't have the luxury of having an assistant. I have to wear many hats. The mayor knows what the job's entailed. He is given an amount of resources based on his office and based on the budget of his office. For him to increase that, I find is, you know, especially now with the spending freeze and asking other departments to become more efficient, it really sends a bad signal. I think you need to, when you lead, you need to lead by example. I think by increasing this position, this dollar amount, I don't think that there's going to be any benefit to the taxpayers. I feel that, again, that this position is more of a politically motivated position. This is not Washington, D.C. We do not have chiefs of staffs. This is the small city with the big heart, and I'm sure if we keep it at $70,000, the way it's been for many, many other mayors, that all the citizens in Milford, would their services and all of the things that we provide to the city as government would be met. So I stand in support of my amendment, but again, I understand your position, and you know, this is where the rubber hits the road. If we're going to make those tough decisions and we're going to be independent thinkers, now's the time to rise in support of this. Thank you.
Any more discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed?
No.
Roll call. Madam Secretary, please.
Alderman Anderson?
No.
I'm sorry?
No.
Alderman Beatty?
No.
Alderman Gaynor? Yes. Alderman Gurman? Yes. Alderman Giannatasio? Yes. Alderman Golden? No. Alderman Grant? Yes. Alderman Hardiman? No. Alderman Smith? No. Alderman Sutton? No. Alderman Tranquilli? Yes. Alderman Vecchiarelli?
No.
Alderman Vitro?
No.
Alderman Vitale? 8 noes. 6 yeses.
8 noes, 6 yeses. The amendment fails. On the original motion, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? No. Roll call vote. Madam Secretary, please.
Alderman Anderson?
Yes.
Alderman Beatty?
Yes.
Alderman Gaynor? Alderman Gurman? Alderman Giannatasio? No. Alderman Golden? Alderman Grant? Alderman Hardiman? Yes. Alderman Smith? Yes. Alderman Sutton? Yes. Alderman Tranquilli? No. Alderman Vecchiarelli?
Yes.
Alderman Vitro?
Yes.
Alderman Vitale? 8 yeses, 6 noes.
The vote was 8 yeses, 6 noes. The motion passes. Alderman Vecchiarelli. Count 4-1-4-2.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the budgets for account 4142, permitting and land use as recommended by the Board of Finance in the amount of $1,063,893. Account 4143, Board of Assessment Appeals, as recommended by the Board of Finance in the amount of $2,901. Account 4144, Zoning Board of Appeals, as recommended by the Board of Finance in the amount of $8,875. Account 4145, Pension Board, as recommended by the Board of Finance in the amount of $3,500. Account 4146, Flood and Erosion Board, as recommended by the Board of Finance in the amount of $903. Account 4147, Tree Commission, as recommended by the Board of Finance in the amount of $1,621. Account 4151, Civil Service Commission, as recommended by the Board of Finance in the amount of $200. Account 4153, Parks, Beach, and Recreation Commission, as recommended by the Board of Finance in the amount of $600. Account 4155, Economic Development Commission, as recommended by the Board of Finance in the amount of $1. Account 4156, Conservation Commission, as recommended by the Board of Finance in the amount of $1,105. Account 4459, Veterans Ceremony and Parade Commission, as recommended by the Board of Finance in the amount of $5,600. Account 4160, Housing Code Board of Appeals, as recommended by the Board of Finance in the amount of $300. Account 4161, Housatonic River Estuary Commission, as recommended by the Board of Finance in the amount of $0. And I believe this is lastly account 4162, Open Space, as recommended by the Board of Finance in the amount of $68,882.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Alderman Vecchiarelli, starting off with account number 4593.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the budgets for account 4593, the Public Library, as recommended by the Board of Finance in the amount of $1,174,907. Account 4110, the Finance Department, as recommended by the Board of Finance in the amount of $2,027,928. Account 4170, Management Information Systems, as recommended by the Board of Finance in the amount of $947,696. And lastly, account 4119, Human Resources, as recommended by the Board of Finance in the amount of $276,025.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Alderman Gaynor.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to raise a concern regarding account 4119, specifically the additional position listed as HR assistant. Best practice is to fill critical open positions that are already budgeted for and not filled before committing to adding headcount. I believe it's prudent to hold off approving a fourth position and an additional cost of almost $40,000 plus benefits until the budgeted positions are filled, settled, and the benefits of the fairly new Munis system are realized. After that, a skills assessment, I think, would be in order to be done to determine staffing needs and levels. With that said, I'd like to make an amendment to admit $39,228 from account 4119 with a new department total of $236,797.
Second.
A motion has been made, an amendment has been made to adjust account number 4119.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman. As you consider this motion, I wanted to point out a typo or Scribner's error in the budget script. For human resources, Department 4119, it currently reads 276025. It should read 276205.
Thank you, Mr. Iridici. Alderman Gaynor, do you still want to keep that motion? The amendment? Okay. So there's a new department total, though. You want to do that math for me, please?
Here. So I'd like to revise that motion to admit $39,228 from account 4119 with a new department total of $236,977.
Second.
The amendment has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Alderman Anderson.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, to the maker of the amendment, I do regard your amendment as well-intentioned. I have issues with the length of time that it takes to fill positions in the city. There are a number of departments that have long lag times in filling jobs, and I've chaired Public Works for the last 6 years. There's no department that probably has been more affected than Public Works, which does so much for so many departments in terms of building maintenance and wastewater, keeping up parks and beaches and the like, and so I will oppose the amendment as a result.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Chairman, again, I appreciate the amendment as well, but as a little bit additional background information, this new position is part of a grander reorganization in our MIS, in our finance departments. It's an allocation of how we process new operations with respect to human services and personnel. This position was contemplated at a time when the Human Resources Department was fully staffed. As has been alluded to in other points of this meeting, the Munis conversion, our new financial software package that we are implementing that should go live from an HR standpoint as of July 1st of this year, has taken a lot of time. It has been cumbersome. However, this new position is going to support a redesigned department that's going to handle some of the work that was formerly in our finance department, some of the work that was formerly in our accounting department. This is a position that I know that our finance director can speak to because of some of the new requirements from federal regulations, state regulations that have now been thrust upon our personnel folks that had not previously been there. So this is one of those critical positions that I really do think is going to benefit the entire operation for the city.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Any more questions regarding the amendment? Alderman Giannattasio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you, I thought that Alderman Gaynor did a great job making her points in regards to this position by omitting it. I know that we've added a position to Peter's department in prior budget for those same reasons. And to Alderman Anderson's point, I think to Alderman Gaynor's point, respectfully, if these other two positions are filled, we will have an influx of being able to have the ability to go through and hire some people if there is a backlog, as you duly noted. So with that being said, I think it makes perfect sense to fill those positions first, evaluate the department as a whole before you go in and add a head count. I think that's the way the private sector handles things. I don't see the purpose in going out and hiring an assistant. We're back to an assistant again. It seems like this is the new thing with the administration. Everybody is looking for an assistant. We just, have to be more efficient we have to fill positions that are already budgeted for, that aren't being filled, and work from there. And I think that that point was well taken through the amendment, and I still am in strong support of the amendment as proposed. Thank you.
Any more discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed?
No.
Roll call vote, Madam Secretary, please.
Alderman Anderson,
No.
Alderman Beatty,
No.
Alderman Gaynor, Alderman Gurman, Alderman Gennatasio.
Yes.
Alderman Golden, Alderman Grant, Alderman Hardeman, Alderman Smith, Alderman Sutton, Alderman Tranquilli, Alderman Veccarelli, Alderman Vitro,
No.
Alderman Vitale. 8 no, 6 yeses.
8 no, 6 yeses. The amendment fails. On the original motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No. Roll call vote, Madam Secretary, please.
Alderman Anderson,
Yes.
Alderman Beatty,
Yes.
Alderman Gaynor, Alderman Gurman, Alderman Gennatasio. Alderman Golden, Alderman Grant, Alderman Hardeman, Alderman Smith, Alderman Sutton, Alderman Tranquilli, Alderman Veccarelli, Alderman Vitro,
Yes.
Alderman Vitale. 8 yeses, 6 nos.
8 yeses, 6 noes. The motion passes. Alderman Veccarelli, start off with account number 4210, Police Department.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the budgets for account 4210, Police Department, as recommended by the Board of Finance for an amount of $14,022,709. Account 4220, Fire Department, as recommended by the Board of Finance, with the following technical changes. On page 54, reduce Captain/Superintendent apparatus to 0. On page 55, increase 4 firefighter positions to lieutenant at $79,714. On page 51, account 514111, regular wages reduced to $8,914,701. Reduce 1/5 of the fiscal week to $44,574 for a new department subtotal of $10,913,975 and a new department total of $12,193,875. Account 4231, Emergency Management, as recommended by the Board of Finance in the amount of $103,354. Account 4240, Animal Control, as recommended by the Board of Finance, $341,001. Account 8160, Lighting, Hydrants, Water, as recommended by the Board of Finance, the amount of $1,963,000. Account 4320, Public Works Office, as recommended by the Board of Finance in the amount of $480,505. Account 4321, Highway Parks, as recommended by the Board of Finance, with the following technical changes. On page 67, reduce Highway Parks Painter to $0. On page 65, reduce account 514111, regular wages, to $2,199,540. Reduce 1/5 fiscal week to $10,937 for a new department subtotal of $2,397,477 and a new Highway Parks Department total of $2,702,527. Account 4323, Building Maintenance, as recommended by the Board of Finance with the following technical changes. On page 71, increase building maintenance painter to $54,871. On page 69, increase account 514111, regular wages to $1,614,290. Increase 1/5 fiscal week to $8,027 for a new department subtotal of $1,677,117 and a new building maintenance department total of $3,166,892. I'll continue. Account 4424, Engineering, as recommended by the Board of Finance in the amount of $396,994. Account 4329, General Garage, as recommended by the Board of Finance in the amount of $1,366,296. Account 4331, Solid Waste, as recommended by the Board of Finance in the amount of $4,251,043. Make that in the form of a motion.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Alderman Tranquilli.
Mr. Chairman, through you, I would like to make an amendment to the street lighting account, account number 554845. I'd like to reduce the amount by $150,000 for a new amount of $580,000 for a new department total of $1,813,000.
Amendment has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Chairman, through you to Alderman Tranquilli, I really do appreciate the sentiment and the willingness to reduce this. Unfortunately, I think we've reduced it as far as we can go. As you recall, we did reduce it this year. We are going to have to do a budget memo transfer to cover some of the overage. We had to do a budget memo transfer last year too. We implemented the conversion of LED lights across the city, either the 4,000 and the 3,000, mostly the 3,000 except for the commercial corridors. That has saved us significant money. However, we reduced this the last couple of years, this account, and because of that, we have not been able to make up with the conversion for the amount of savings. So there's a couple factors that should be saving us some money, but they're not going to save us $150,000, and I just do not think that we're going to be able to cover $150,000 reduction. So I think it has to be somewhere about the amount, but I'll let the finance director give you the exact figures if he has those handy or available.
Mr. Chairman, can I just follow up with the mayor?
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to the mayor. Are you saying there's conversion costs that aren't showing in there? Because obviously going from a halogen bulb to LED is cutting, 50% plus. So I'm just seeing a much greater savings. So you're saying there's costs, other costs that haven't been justified or that are in there that we can't adjust. Is that what you're saying?
No, we have saved significantly. There was no cost in the conversion. There is only cost for the installation of new street lights, new Cobra heads through the Light the Night program, and we have done those. but there was no conversion cost unless lights have to be taken down or new bulbs installed. But we did save a significant amount of money, approximately a third, overall for just the streetlights, not everything, but there is still a cost that we went over a year ago that we have not been able to make up the difference. So we underfunded this account last year, anticipating a greater savings, and that has not been realized.
But the lights weren't fully in yet, but now they are as of certainly this budget period.
So the lights are fully in. We've saved about a third of our overall streetlight cost savings, but it's still not, again, still not enough to make up for the proposed reduction in cost.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, to the mayor, to the entire board, I know we got a real-time figure at our last meeting for the street lighting account. Since then, the figure has gone up. It's currently at $523,486 currently spent out of the current year budget. So we do project a deficit in this account for the current fiscal year, similar to what has happened in prior fiscal years.
Thank you, Mr. Iudice. Alderman Tranquilli.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, to Peter. Our last meeting, maybe a week or two ago, we were at $477,000 roughly. Year to date, I would assume that was pretty close to the 10-month mark, which if you take your $523,486, I'm guessing that's pretty close to maybe almost the 11-month mark, which comes to $524,700. I assumed in my numbers or my calculations that would be somewhere around $572,400 for the end of the year. We're out of the winter months. We're in spring, summer, so the lighting really isn't on as much as it used to be. So I'm guessing, and hopefully you can correct me, we should be close to $572,400, which is a savings from the $730,000 of $157,600 difference, which is why I was requesting a amendment of $150,000.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, to Alderman Tranquilli, I stand corrected. We normally have a like a small surplus in this account. What I was thinking of was the overall department. We are always short in the hydrant account, and we end up having to transfer whatever small savings we have in the street lighting into that account, and even then we've always been short, and we've had to come back to the Board of Finance and Board of Aldermen to find additional monies from elsewhere in the budget to do an additional transfer. So I just wanted to amend what I said earlier. Thank you.
Any more discussion on the amendment? Excuse me.
Mr. Chairman, we'd like to have a 5-minute recess, please.
5-minute recess. We are out of recess. Any more discussion on the amendment?
Mr. Chairman, if I can,
Alderman Tranquilli.
I'd like to rescind my motion.
Yes.
And I would like to make a new amendment to the, rescind the second? Okay.
The amendment motion has been rescinded, as the second has been rescinded. Go ahead, Alderman Tranquilli.
I would like to make an amendment to the street lighting account number 554845. I would like to reduce the amount by $40,000 for a new amount of $690,000 for a new department total of $1,923,000. And this is roughly the difference between last year's and this year's budget. It was $40,000. Thank you.
Second.
Second.
The amendment has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion on the amendment? Alderman Grant.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you. I support this amendment because at this time what we're doing is just bringing the dollar amount back to what we had last year. And as the finance director actually just said, and we had a surplus this year. We also have all of the LEDs implemented, so we should see a reduction in our total light cost throughout the year. Thank you.
Any more discussion on the amendment?
Mr. Chair, again, just to provide a little bit of background, if you do notice, though, there was still a deficit in the block of line items under lighting hydrants and water from the last fiscal year that we had to make up for through a budget memo transfer. I still think after consulting again with our finance director, do think that $40,000 is a little bit too much. We're going to be again in a deficit, which I would not recommend nor suggest. It's just a little bit too much.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Any more discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed?
No.
Roll call vote, Madam Secretary, please.
Alderman Anderson?
No.
Alderman Beatty?
No.
Alderman Gaynor? Yes. Alderman Gurman? Yes. Alderman Genentasio?
Yes.
Alderman Golden? No. Alderman Grant? Yes. Alderman Hardeman?
No.
Alderman Smith?
No.
Alderman Sutton? Alderman Tranquilli? Alderman Veccarelli?
No.
Alderman Vitro?
No.
Alderman Vitale?
Yes.
8 yes, 6 no.
8-6 no. The amendment fails. On the original motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No. Roll call vote, Madam Secretary, please.
Alderman Anderson?
Yes.
Alderman Beatty?
Yes.
Alderman Gaynor? No. Alderman Gurman? No. Alderman Genentasio?
No.
Alderman Golden? Yes. Alderman Grant? No. Alderman Hardeman?
Yes.
Alderman Smith? Yes. Alderman Sutton? Yes. Alderman Tranquilli? No. Alderman Veccarelli?
Yes.
Alderman Vitro?
Yes.
Alderman Vitale? 8 yes, 6 no.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Chairman, before you announce the results, I do want to tell you, though, that this is the first full year of billing that we're going to have for the new conversion. I will report back to your board. I appreciate the amendment. I appreciate, the insight and the thoughtfulness of this, and I will report to your board July 1st or whenever we get the last bill from the UI company and give you the exact totals so that next year we will have a full year worth of billing experience, and we will be able to hopefully precisely account for this particular line item. But again, I appreciate Alderman Tranquilli's thought and motion.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The vote was 8 yes, 6 no. The motion passes. Alderman Veccarelli, account 8104.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve
Mr.
the
Chairman,
budgets.
point of order. We have not, we're still under discussion for the block of the previous motion, and I would like to speak to account number 4320, Public Works Office. Through you, Mr. Chairman.
4320.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Account number 4320, Public Works Office. I have concerns about the construction project manager position. That's been added to the budget. The salary amount is $85,145 plus benefits. I'd like to omit the $85,145 salary, bringing it to a new department total of $395,360. Before I make this in the form of a motion, I'd like to share with the members of the board my concerns about this position that's before us. I don't think that the city warrants a full-time project manager. I understand that the city takes on projects from time to time, such as, for an example, most recently, the splash pad. I know that we go out and we hire people on an as-need basis where we're not responsible for benefits, we're not responsible for pensions, and the job gets done probably just as fast or not faster. I think that this position really is not something that we need. I think it's more of a want. I think that we have the Public Works Director, we have an assistant to the Public Works Director. We have, in the past, like I mentioned prior, is hired people, consultants, project manager, on an as-need basis. I think that's important, that we continue in that fashion. I don't see the benefit to the taxpayer by adding this to the budget where we have other positions that are already budgeted for and they're not even filled. So with that being said, I make that in the form of a motion. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, a point of order.
Alderman Sutton.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I believe that the amendment offered by Alderman Giannatasio was out of order, seeing that we, as a board, voted down the amendment, and then it was on the floor to approve the motion of this particular block, which passed on an 8-6 vote.
What has happened, Alderman Sutton, was my fault. We had an amendment under discussion of the original motion, and after the amendment was declined, then I had to go back to the original motion, the discussion of the original motion, sorry, and there still was discussion on the original motion. I just acted on the amendment on the original motion. That's why Alderman Giannatasio called a point of order. I missed out on more discussion on the original motion.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Chairman, to the amendment that's been offered, the project manager position, I think, is going to be a huge benefit to the city. We've seen that this position, hired as a contract position, has saved about 50% on projects that have happened so far. You get a lot more efficiency. It streamlines the way that we conduct business. As you know, overall in the Public Works Department, there has been a reduction of one net position, so 2 positions were reduced. This 1 position was added. Overall in the city, there is a net reduction of a position. This is a very lean budget. This is a budget that scrapes the bone. This is a budget that overall, again, is not increasing the overall number of positions on the city side. It is reducing them, both within this department, the Public Works Department, and within the city as a whole. So again, I can't speak highly enough of having this new position brought online. I think that it's on projects that, as they move forward, it's going to really have a cost savings and a benefit for the city.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The amendment has been made and seconded. Is there any more discussion on the amendment? Alderman Giannatasio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you. In response to the mayor's comments, I would just like to add that, we're never in a position where the taxpayer can realize the true savings of what we do. You know, we have this way of governing where we, you know, take away a position, but then we, you know, we're so quick to add one. Again, this is not a needed position. We've had many projects in the past that have been completed successfully with consultants, with people hired for that specific scope of work. Once you start adding to a department, you know, you're adding costs, you're adding more to the taxpayer. You have to add a pension, insurance. I'm sure this person, if hired, is probably going to get a car, a vehicle. So, I don't know. For me, personally, I feel if I'm going to do a project, whether it be for my business, I'm going to go out and hire someone to specifically help me, guide me, navigate me through that project. When the project is over, it's over. If the time comes and there's another project in the horizon, then, you know, then at that point, I'll go out into the market and see what's available. But for me to have this as a full-time, day in and day out, I don't think that it warrants it. And, you know, I would still ask for your support to move forward with the amendment. Thank you.
Any more discussion on the amendment? Alderman Gurman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you and through to the mayor, and I appreciate your comments that the city saved a lot of money by hiring this person as a contractor. And without reiterating everything Alderman Ginatasio said, I think it's prudent to keep him as a contractor and hire him individually for certain projects and not have him on the staff all the time with all the benefits. That all adds up. But I think as we're doing it, it's worked well, and why change it and put him on permanently? So I like the amendment that Alderman Ginatasio has proposed.
Any more discussion on the amendment? Alderman Tranquilli.
Mr. Chairman, through you, I'd also like to say that I'm in favor of the amendment. You know, it seems that we keep adding positions. We have a real opportunity here to save the taxpayers' money. Real savings through the entire budget as a board. We can go through the entire budget and look for real cost savings. And it seems like we just keep adding positions. I don't understand it. You know, I don't agree with it, but I'm sure there's a method to your madness, Mayor Blake. But I would have to say I definitely am in favor of Alderman Genitasio's amendment.
Any more discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed?
No.
Roll call vote, Madam Chairman, please. Madam Secretary, I'm giving you positions.
Alderman Anderson,
Yes.
Alderman Beatty. Alderman Gaynor. Alderman Gurman.
Yes?
Alderman Ginatasio. Alderman Golden. I'm sorry? Alderman Grant. Alderman Hardeman. Alderman Smith. Alderman Sutton. Alderman Tranquilli. Alderman Vecchiarelli. Alderman Vitro.
No.
Alderman Vitale. Seven noes, 7 yeses.
7 noes,
It's a tie, yeah.
7 noes, 7 yeses. Motion fails. Any more discussion on the original motion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Roll call vote, Madam Secretary.
Alderman Anderson? Alderman Beatty?
Yes.
Alderman Gaynor? Alderman Gurman?
No?
Alderman Ginatasio?
No.
Alderman Golden? Alderman Grant? Alderman Hardeman? Alderman Smith? Alderman Sutton? Alderman Tranquilli? Alderman Veccarelli?
Yes.
Alderman Vitro?
Yes.
Alderman Vitale? 8 yeses, 6 nos.
8 yeses, 6 noes, the motion passes. Alderman Veccarelli, account number 8104, Public Debt Service.
Mr. Chairman, I just have a, Mr. Chairman,
Alderman Gurman.
before we move on, I have a question for the mayor on account number 4220, the fire department. We're eliminating one position I see, but we're increasing 4 other positions, is that correct? And is that elimination, is that permanent?
Yes, that's through an agreement negotiated by the city attorney's office. I think it was discussed with the fire chief at the last budget presentation.
I assume the chief is happy with that?
Yes.
Thank you.
Alderman Veccarelli.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the budgets for account 8104, Public Debt Service, as recommended by the Board of Finance in the amount of $12,523,313. Account 4410, Health Department, as recommended by the Board of Finance in the amount of $922,572. Account 4520, Recreation Department, as recommended by the Board of Finance in the amount of $871,382. Account 8310, Employee Benefits, as recommended by the Board of Finance in the amount of $24,294,220. Account 8320, Insurance and Bonds, as recommended by the Board of Finance in the amount of $1,783,500. Account 8340, Claims and Refunds, as recommended by the Board of Finance in the amount of $418,700. Account 8390, Benefits and Salary Reserve, as recommended by the Board of Finance with the following technical changes. Account 514199, Other Wage Adjustments, reduced to $382,572 for a new department subtotal of $382,572 and a new department total of $382,572. Account 8999, Unallocated Contingency, as recommended by the Board of Finance in the amount of $20,000. Make that in the form of a motion.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Alderman Veccarelli, account number 4401.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the budgets for account 4401, Council on Aging, as recommended by the Board of Finance in the amount of $1,369,298. Account 8103, Milford Arts Council, as recommended by the Board of Finance in the amount of $70,000. Account 8105, CMed, as recommended by the Board of Finance in the amount of $80,248. Account 8107, Regional Mental Health Board, in the amount of $2,996, as recommended by the Board of Finance. Make that in the form of a motion.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Alderman Gurman.
That wasn't the whole list, this is the next page.
Account 8411, the Borough of Woodmont, as recommended by the Board of Finance in the amount of $233,000. Account 8412, Transit Authority, as recommended by the Board of Finance in the amount of $350,242. Account 8113, Bridges Healthcare, as recommended by the Board of Finance in the amount of $380,000. Account 8115, Veterans Graves, as recommended by the Board of Finance, $2,850. Account 8416, Milford Flotilla 73, as recommended by the Board of Finance, in the amount of $9,000. Account 4417, Human Services Department, as recommended by the Board of Finance, in the amount of $435,000. Account 8118, Historic District, as recommended by the Board of Finance, in the amount of $650. Account 8419, Milford Progress Incorporated, as recommended by the Board of Finance, in the amount of $7,500. Account 8120, Historic District 2, as recommended by the Board of Finance, in the amount of $650. Account 8121, Health Services, as recommended by the Board of Finance, in the amount of $12,000. Account 8422, Cemetery Association, as recommended by the Board of Finance, in the amount of $9,250. Account 8425, Beth El Shelter, as recommended by the Board of Finance, in the amount of $85,000. Account 8426, Boys and Girls Club, as recommended by the Board of Finance, in the amount of $80,000. Account 8427, Literacy Volunteers of Southern Connecticut, as recommended by the Board of Finance, in the amount of $5,000. Account 8428, Milford Preservation Commission, as recommended by the Board of Finance, in the amount of $650. Account 8292, Private School Textbooks, as recommended by the Board of Finance, in the amount of $20,000. Account 8293, Education Audit Fees, as recommended by the Board of Finance, in the amount of $22,300. Account 8294, School Debt, as recommended by the Board of Finance, in the amount of $5,446,890. Account 8395, Education Employee Benefits, as recommended by the Board of Finance, in the amount of $1,261,786. And make that in the form of a motion.
The motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Chair,
Alderman Anderson.
there is a Scribner's error for account 8428. It reads Milford Preservation Commission. It should read Historic Preservation Commission. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
It should read Milford Historic Preservation Commission.
It should read Historic Preservation Commission.
Thank you, Alderman Anderson. Any more discussion on the motion? Alderman Giannatasio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to Mayor Blake. Mayor Blake, account number 8416, Milford Flotilla. Can you give us an update since the last budget hearing in regards to the flotilla and their prior $9,000 that was approved? Have they received that $9,000?
That's not part of the budget.
The last time I checked, Mr. Chairman, through you to Alderman Giannatasio, the last time I checked, the Finance Department was processing that payment. There were a couple of grant-funded agencies that still had not submitted their W-9s in order to provide the tax information. At that point, I believe that the flotilla was still one. I do know that communications had been sent to those grant-funded agencies. There were several. I'm not sure whether or not that payment has been processed, whether they've received that W-9, but I know that it is in process.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, just to follow up, I appreciate the update. I'm thankful that payment is being made. The reason why I brought this to light is because that this is before us once again for an additional $9,000. And I just wanted to know prior to voting for this new budget item of $9,000 that they have already received their prior budget of $9,000. So you've made good, and the check's in the mail.
Any
Thank
more
you.
discussion on the motion? Alderman Vitale.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you to the mayor. In a conundrum, because the last time that I think I was pretty disturbed, perturbed over the idea that they didn't get their funding, and there was nothing said about a W-9. It was all within negotiations. Negotiations seemed to have been the mantra that night, that's the reason why they weren't getting their money. And my next question would have been, in all of the accounts from 4401 to 8428, I think they're all grantees, that are there any other grants that we haven't satisfied? And I think you answered that question, that a lot of them did not submit their W-9s, and therefore they were not all funded at this particular point in time. Specifically, is the flotilla, did we receive all the necessary information that we should have gotten in order to give them that grant at this point in time?
As of the last time I checked, there were a few grant-funded agencies that have not received their allotment because our finance department has not received the W-9. The last time I checked, the flotilla was one of those departments that reminder messages were sent out because they had not provided the finance department with a W-9. Just as an example, I know that the literacy volunteers was another one that we're still attempting the process, trying to get additional tax information from those agencies. You know, we're trying to work hard to pay out those grants, but at this point, let me check with our finance director to see if the literacy center and if the flotilla have been fully compliant with the W-9s.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, to the board, the Literacy Volunteers Association did comply, and that check was cut, I believe, last week. And as I said, as soon as we get the W-9 for the flotilla, we'll be able to move forward with the process of the check being cut by accounting.
What bothers me is that night we had we spent a lot of time in discussion, and not once did it be brought to your attention that the W-9 was not satisfied by the city, or by them to the city. Not once. It was always renegotiations and negotiations, and not once. So would it not have been a little more transparent to say the reason why they didn't get it, because we don't have a fully all the information that we needed to get in order to give them the money? I don't understand that point.
Mr. Chairman, through you to Alderman Vitale, what we did discuss was that there was several unresolved issues, that being one of them. There has been difficulty in communication with the organization. It has improved a little bit recently since there's been a new executive board, but I do know that there is a meeting scheduled in the next couple of weeks to help resolve some of the other issues, so there is forward progress, but there has been great difficulty in communication with the flotilla. This is one of the byproducts of, the unresponsiveness.
But when they request a grant, isn't there a checkoff list or things that they need to satisfy before they get that grant? Do they know? It may be a moot point, but do they know they have to supply the W-9 to the city in order to get it? And does it not go through purchasing? And why doesn't? And again, there's no follow-up here. When we unanimously vote to give these people money on July 1, and they said they usually got their checks on July 1, and that's probably when we have most money, the fact is, doesn't purchasing take these POs or however it's out there, and say to them, we need your W-9s to make it, get these things off the books and making sure that they get their grants in a timely fashion? we spent excessive amount of time here that night, kind of grilling them. And then when they came back and said, Mr. Chair, and that was to Chairman Vitro, why didn't I get last year's? You mean they were totally in the dark that they didn't get their W-9s in? I can't understand that.
Mr. Chairman, I don't want to belabor the point, but I can assure you, despite what they said, there's not a single grant-funded agency that got their check on July 1st. It trickles in throughout the course of the year. But again, every single grant-funded agency is held to the same requirements. This particular one has had a little bit more difficult time communicating.
They've gotten grants in the past. They've gotten grants in the past, and they've gotten the W-9s in the past. So why did they not fail? Why did they fail to get it in now? It just seems confusing, and it doesn't seem straight, that's all.
I don't mean to muddle, okay.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I just want a point of correction. I misspoke earlier. Now that I look into the system, what was done last week was the purchase requisition for the literacy center. So their check actually hasn't been cut, but as the mayor said, they're probably working on getting an updated W-9, and once that's received, then the check will be cut expeditiously.
Thank you, Mr. Idishi. Any more questions on the amendment? On the motion, actually, there is no amendment on this one. Thank you, Tony.
One more question, Mr. Chair.
Not on that same subject. We're
Yeah,
done with that
why not?
subject. We're done with that subject.
Why? Why do
The
you?
mayor has answered you many times.
I'm just asking, the point is, if we
He made
vote
it
for
clear
it today,
that-
is he going to get the money? Are they going to get the grant? Or are they going to hold it up until they get the new one W-9 in? If so, I'm not voting for this. I'm not going to abstain because obviously we're unanimously voting for something that you have not given the party their due. I mean, how can we vote for it? How can anybody vote for this without getting that money to them?
He said the check is being processed. We're moving on. All in favor of the motion? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
No. There's no abstention. You can go get lost in the bathroom if you want, but if you're here, you got to vote.
Questions? You're not the chair. You're the
vote.
parliamentarian. All you do is
Oh, I thought you were looking.
that you can't be held. You can't be missed. I mean, I got to look that way. Gee,
Are you abstaining from the vote?
I'd like to.
What's the reason for abstention?
Because I don't think they're getting paid, and I'm not. It's a moot vote if we vote for it.
Okay,
So I abstain from the vote.
okay. So unanimously, one abstention. Mr. Alderman Vecchiarelli.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the budget for account 4796, Education Operations, as recommended by the Board of Finance in the amount of $95,078,487.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Alderman Vecchiarelli.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the budgets for account 8397, Education Health Insurance Contribution, as recommended by the Board of Finance in the amount of $20,136,313. Also, yeah, I got to continue here. Account 4798, Education Health Services, School Nurses, as recommended by the Board of Finance with the following technical changes. On page 96, increase position totals to $1,331,452. On page 95, increase account 514111, regular wages to $1,331,452, an increase 1/5 fiscal week to $345,000, for a new department subtotal of $1,397,297, and a new education health services school nurses department total of $1,441,211. And I think,
You gotta continue that.
yep, let me continue. Nope, I don't have to continue. That's where we end.
Did you make a second, Alderman Golden? Thank you, dear. Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Alderman Vecchiarelli.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve account 4154 Sewer Commission as recommended by the Board of Finance in the amount of $1,650,313. Yep, that's it.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Alderman Anderson.
through you to the mayor. I noted that in previous years, the sewer use charge may have gone up to negate what we were doing with respect to offering a tax cut. I'm glad that the mayor has formulated his budget in such a way that this will now be the fourth year in a row, if it's passed, where a tax cut is passed on to taxpayers of the city of Milford. And I wondered, for the record, if we could have what the sewer use charge would be that's passed on to residents this year, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Chairman, through you to Alderman Anderson, the proposed reduction, again, it is assuming that you pass these line items. The sewer use fee will go from $328.80 for fiscal year 18-19 to $323.52 for the next fiscal year, 2019-2020.
Are representing over a $5 cut from this year to next year. That's certainly going to be most welcome. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome. Any more discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Alderman Vecchiarelli.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the budget for account 8226 wastewater as recommended by the Board of Finance in the amount of $6,827,181.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Alderman Giannattasio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to Finance Director, Mr. Adisi. Peter, can you point out to me in the budget book if there's any credits, nitrogen credits, on the revenue side? Wastewater?
Mr. Chairman, through you, I can't give you the exact numbers, but again, the nitrogen credit charges or credits are based on the previous year's experience. We thought, based on a whole host of bad weather, again, whenever there's a real rainy year, it's more likely that you're going to be paying instead of receiving credits for nitrogen. We thought that we were going to have a deficit or have to pay as opposed to receive credits. I am happy to report that the state changed the formula a little bit. It was helpful for us. They made the value of the credits so much more so that the one plant that we did that really had a great experience negated any type of deficit, and it's positive for the overall nitrogen credits. So there is credits, there's not a deficit, there's nothing that we have to pay for this past year.
Just to follow up, Mr. Chairman, through you, can someone point out to me in the revenue side of the budget book where we show these credits that you're referring to?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, to Alderman Giannattasio, per the long-standing resolution or ordinance that was approved many years ago, the nitrogen credit revenue actually gets put into the debt service reserve fund. And I do report that for this fiscal year, we did receive money in the amount of $43,058 for this fiscal year, and it went into the debt service reserve fund.
And just to follow up through you, Mr. Chairman, and that is $43,000 up and above, to Mayor Blake's point, after any type of penalties that we may have incurred along the way? Is that accurate?
Mr. Chairman, through you, yes, that's the net positive money that we received. So after taking any deductions, that's how much we were ahead of the game.
Okay, just to make another comment, I know from serving on this board for the past 12 years that we've actually, in years past, have received much more than that. And I know that we've trained people in that department to look out for these such things, so we realize the full credit. You mentioned that the state changed the formula, which is to our advantage. I just hope that these credits can be increased moving forward. Thank you.
Any more discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Alderman Vecchiarelli.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the revenue and expenditures for account 8390, benefits and salary reserves, as recommended by the Board of Finance in the amount of $53,710.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Alderman Vecchiarelli.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the revenue and expenditures for account 4000, the sewer fund, as recommended by the Board of Finance, and the amount of $8,531,204.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Alderman Vecchiarelli.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve expenditures and revenue for account 4157, Harbor Management Commission, as recommended by the Board of Finance in the amount of $285,091.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Alderman Vecchiarelli.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve expenditures and revenue for account 4121, the golf course, as recommended by the Board of Finance in the amount of $84,714.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Alderman Vecchiarelli.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve account 1005-054000, General Fund Reserve, as recommended by the Board of Finance, with the following, recommendations as recommended by the Board of Finance, with the following technical changes. Account 433517, Education Cost Sharing, to $9,885,063 for a new state education grant subtotal of $9,985,063. Account 433642, State Realty, to $281,776. Account 433643, State Realty, Pequot, to $236,690. Account 433647, Private Exemptions, to $285,985 for a new subtotal of $930,494.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Chairman?
Alderman Vitale.
Mr. Chairman, through you, thank you. To the mayor. Mr. Mayor, I know you've taken into consideration what might be coming down from the state, especially in education cost sharing and a lot of things that haven't been really set at this point. Any idea of where the teacher retirement responsibility for the city is going to lie at this point? If it's coming down the pipe, or have you accounted for some of that in the budget?
Mr. Chairman, through you to Alderman Vitale. The technical adjustments are the best guess based on the best information that we have sitting here today, May 15th, 2019. It is likely that the State General Assembly is going to vote on their budget sometime in the next month. Session ends full and formal by, I think it's the first Wednesday of June. It's everybody's hope that they pass a budget before then. There have been years, even within the last couple, that they have not by the time session ended. It's our great hope that they pass it sometime within the next couple of weeks so that we can move forward. When the budget, the mayor's budget and the Board of Finance budget were first developed, the numbers that we used were our best guess at the time. They were the numbers that the city of Milford were allocated for fiscal year 2018-2019. The numbers that we're plugging in here under technical changes are the figures that the Appropriations Committee adopted about 2 weeks ago. Again, there's going to be a couple more weeks or more where the state doesn't adopt the budget. It's my great hope that each one of the aldermen, everyone in the city, advocates on behalf of the city of Milford and impresses upon our delegation to give Milford additional monies. We don't know how the ultimate budget vote is going to go. We don't know exactly, as we sit here today, Milford's allocation amount. We don't know if the teacher retirement system is going to burden the city of Milford anymore. I can tell you that the Appropriations Committee did not adopt that, but there has been discussion that the final budget vote may incorporate the teacher retirement system as a liability to municipalities. I don't know as we stand here. What I do know is that we're putting the best numbers in that we have at the moment. I can tell you that when I started looking at municipal budgets, this is my 16th year, 8 years as mayor and 8 years sitting on the Board of Aldermen. When I first started looking at budgets, the overall state grants represented about 15–16% of our overall revenue. Now it's down to about 5 or 6%. So there's been a big change in how much we were relying on the state. We have adjusted locally here in Milford. You know, first and foremost, we've grown our grant list. That's one of the ways that we're less dependent on the state. We have a greater tax base to draw from. We've also found non-taxpayer sources of funding, things like the transportation money that we now have that we didn't have a few years ago. So those are some of the ways that we've made up from the state shortfall that's ever eroding over the last couple of years. This money amounts to our best estimate at this point of what we're going to get from the state. This is the money that will go into the operational portion of the budget. In addition to that, we do have additional state grants that fund projects and other capital developments. I've talked to Alderman Anderson about that. That is going to be coming to your board over the course of the next couple months for your consideration, some of those specific projects. That's in addition to the operational money that funnels into this budget. So with that, I do know that unless there's any questions about the revenue, we do have to take a recess so that our finance director can calculate the exact mill rate. I do know that he's been working on it as we've been discussing, so it should be quicker than some years. But with that, I'm happy to answer any other questions.
Thank you.
Alderman Giannattasio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you to Mayor Blake. Mayor Blake, how did you come up with the $9 million that you took out of the undesignated fund to put into this year's budget?
Again, when we started this process, we had a pretty significant fund balance. The last 2 years, we've had significant surpluses of over $9 million. We've had hefty surpluses going back 5 years. Last year, we had a $9.6 million surplus You know, it's my intention to always make sure that the surplus that we have in any given year gaps out so that it is in excess of what we use for a fund balance forward or a fund balance advancement for the next fiscal year's budget. Again, there's a balance that you need to strike to make sure that you're not overtaxing our taxpayers, and I think that strikes the right balance, this additional $4 million above and beyond what we had last year.
So the $4 million that were over and above from last year is relatively going to do what to this tax, to this budget?
Mr. Chairman, to you, you know, it helps with the revenue. It helps account for the fact that we have a pretty significant and growing fund balance. You don't want to have your fund balance, you know, fund balances are always good, but the last several years we've had significant surpluses, and we want to make, which is a good thing, but we want to make sure that we are not overtaxing Milford taxpayers more than they should be, and that's a reflection of what we're doing here.
How much longer can the city sustain to continue to operate in that fashion and take money from the undesignated balance at these record level numbers?
Mr. Chairman, through you, again, we're effectively managing it. You know, it is my great hope that not just for the past 4 years, but every year we have a tax cut for the citizens of Milford, and that we continue to grow our fund balance, and that we continue to, well, we can't have our rating increased anymore by the rating agencies because we're at a AAA, but again, all financial signs, all fiscal measures, you know, we are advancing above and beyond, and you see that in how we're developing the economy, the economics of our community, the fact that we have so many new businesses move into town. Last year, 465 new businesses made Milford their home. The fact that we have a vacancy rate of 96%, that's unheard of. We're far outpacing all the other, you know, towns and cities in the state of Connecticut, and I'm going to give you a lot of credit, Alderman Giantassio, and all of the other members of the Board of Aldermen. It's in large part because we've had a fiscally responsible budget that your board has adopted, you know, year over year, that's, again, allowed tax cuts for the citizens of Milford, but at the same time allowed us to fund those services that our residents have relied upon and deserve.
Well, I appreciate that, Mayor Blake. It is our fiduciary responsibility. At the end of the day, this budget process is what we're elected to do. It's paramount. I just, you know, have the perception that, you know, we keep borrowing and borrowing and borrowing, and, you know, at some point, you know, it's going to catch up. And I just am very reluctant when it comes to that, and I'm cautious, but thank you.
Any more discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carried.
Chairman, at this point, I would ask that we take a recess so that our finance director can calculate the taxes.
Okay, I just wanted to announce that there was an unanimous.
Before we make
vote.
that final vote, if we could just sit in recess for a few minutes. Yeah, we can.
We're now in recess until our finance director comes up with our final figures. Thank you. We are now out of recess. Please, Aldermen, please take their seats. And Alderman Vecchiarelli, you have the floor.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve an ordinance establishing a budget for the City of Milford for fiscal year 2019-2020, setting the mill rate and establishing a due date in accordance with the provisions of the Connecticut General Statutes and the Charter of the City of Milford. Whereas the Board of Finance of the City of Milford has made estimates of the income and the amount of money necessary to appropriate for the expenses of the City of Milford for the fiscal year commencing July 1st, 2019 and ending June 30th, 2020, and has classified such expenses under appropriate headings, departments, and appropriations as more fully appears in the proposed fiscal budget submitted by the Board of Aldermen in accordance with Article 6, Section 2 of the Charter of the City of Milford. And whereas the Board of Aldermen, having met and conducted a public hearing, has considered and proposed fiscal budget and has made changes therein pursuant to Article 6, Section 3 of the Charter of the City of Milford. That number there is $216,550,313. Whereas the Board of Aldermen in its deliberations and voting on said budget has estimated revenues for the 2019-2020 fiscal year in the amount of I have $216,550,313 and authorizing appropriations for the 2019-2020 fiscal year in the amount of $216,550,313. Now therefore be it, and it is hereby ordained and enacted by the Board of Aldermen of the City of Milford as follows. The proposed fiscal budget for the fiscal year commencing July 1st, 2019 and ending June 30th, 2020, as amended by the actions of the Board of Aldermen pursuant to law, is hereby adopted in order to be filed with the City Clerk. The taxes for the fiscal year commencing July 1, 2019 and ending June 30th, 2020 at a rate of 27.71 mils upon the rateable estate within the limits of the City of Milford are hereby laid and levied to meet the expenses of said budget. Said mill rate is set on the predication that it is estimated that $412,698 of said levy will be granted for elderly exemptions, State of Connecticut. $717,513 will be granted for local tax relief programs for the elderly. $400,868 will be granted for local tax relief program for veterans, and 97.85% of the resulting levy will be collected during the fiscal year commencing July 1st, 2019 and ending June 30th, 2020. Said taxes shall be paid on the grand list of October 1st, 2018, and shall be due and payable on July 1st, 2019, provided that if the taxes of any person shall exceed $200, the first installment thereof, but not less than 1/2 of the amount of such taxes, shall be due and payable on the first day of July 2019, and the remainder due on the and payable on the first day of January 2020. But any taxpayer may pay the total amount of the tax for which he or she is liable at the time when the first installment shall become payable. Such tax rate shall apply to all districts of the city of Milford. The taxes to be raised are $177,398,053. The total appropriation is $216,550,313. And the total revenue will be $216,550,313. This ordinance shall take effect in accordance with the charter of the city of Milford.
Motion is made and seconded. Any discussion? See, Alderman Giannatasio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you, I just first would like to thank all of you for your time and effort, and Mayor Blake and Peter and our Chief of Staff, Justin Rosen, for all the time spent on this budget process. You know, I've been on this board for 12 years, and I have been on both sides of the aisle in reference to I was in the majority and now I'm in the minority. I've been in the minority much longer, but I do recall the days of being in the majority, and I just would like to share with you respectfully that we would still come out to the floor and propose cuts. Now, I know this is a lean budget, respectfully, but with that being said, you know, my caucus, we've spent a lot of time deliberating on a lot of these positions that are now added to the budget. Alderman Tranquilli, you know, came up with a reasonable cut. He even decreased it, hoping that it would get your attention and maybe, you know, in the spirit of working together, we can, you know, maybe save the taxpayers even more money. I guess it comes down to, I feel like through this process that we never realized the true savings. You know, we save money on one hand, but then we're so quick to like put it back somewhere else, or to give somebody an increase in their salary, or, you know, to come up with a creative position, you know, and these are the things that, you know, that I disagree with, because I'm looking for the bottom line. Being in business, it's all about the bottom line. And I know from experience that this city runs very efficient, okay? And that's to all the department heads. I give credit to all of them. And they're under a lot of pressure, spending freezes, you know, hiring freezes. So they're really in a holding pattern. So they have to really make do. And when I see, you know, them sacrificing, and then I see opportunities that come before this body where we can actually, you know, say no. And sometimes that's a hard thing to do. And I get that. But, you know, I have to respectfully say no against this budget, because I'm not in favor of the positions that were added. I think that they're wants, they're not needs. I respect all of you on the board. I consider the majority of you friends. And I just, you know, I hope that maybe moving forward that you come to this budget and you put forward cuts of your own. I think that that would really, you know, send a positive message. And I enjoy working with you. And thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for the time. Thank you, Mayor Blake. And I look forward to voting no. Thank you.
Alderman Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, I appreciate Alderman Giannatasio's comments, and I do, I do acknowledge and respect the fact that the minority has to do, as Alderman Giannatasio said, in 12 years, he spent most of the time now in the minority. I've also had that experience of being on a 10-5 board many years ago, and the frustration that went with that. But the one thing about local government that I think is different is, you said you consider all of us friends. I think we all do work together very cooperatively and respectfully, and I think that there is a philosophical difference here, and it's not just the minority being more austere. Mayor Blake in this administration, since he's been mayor, has probably been more tight-fisted than most mayors in most municipalities, sometimes to the frustration of our caucus when things, we feel are appropriate and the mayor sometimes feels otherwise. I think the mayor has been extremely frugal in the way he approaches the departments with regard to the budget. But I also don't think it's something philosophically that we measure the success of local government by how many positions and how much work we can put on people or how lean we can cut down the organization. Part of being a government is not a private enterprise. It doesn't work solely on profit. It has to work for the best interest, the safety and welfare of the people of the city of Milford. And sometimes that's not all based simply on dollars and cents. One of the things is the grand list, the net taxable monies that this city is worth in terms of property and real estate. And that has been enhanced because of the policies, I believe, of this administration and of the work that this board has done. So I think the measure of government, especially local government, can't always be how much we cut, how many positions we eliminate. I think when we're adding positions, we're talking about a thriving, vibrant city where there are new businesses coming in, there are all sorts of new infrastructure projects, there are all sorts of new things with regard to the school district, and I think we should celebrate those things. And the fact that we can accomplish that and at the same time actually reduce taxes, I think is high praise, not only for the administration, but for every member of this board and all the hard work and time that we put into it. And I appreciate and thank you, Mr. Minority Leader, for all the work you've done. And I agree, that's your job, is to test this and to object and to get the best answers that you possibly can. And I respect and admire the work you do in that regard. And I think it is manifest in the successes that we've had on this board over the past many years. We have Democratic mayors, we have Republican mayors, unlike other cities. The stability of Milford is based on the bipartisanship and the cooperative work that we do together, and I think this budget is another testimony to the good work that we all do bipartisanly. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just want to echo what has been said. Alderman Smith mentioned that we have a growing grand list, and that's one measure of the town's success and a community's growth. All the new businesses that we've seen come into town and expand that tax base that we've had. The city of Milford now has the largest grand list in New Haven County and one of the top in the state of Connecticut. That's because, to a large measure, what has been happening here with the budget. And this budget process is not just the last 2 months that this board has had to consider and contemplate, but it really is a 12-month process. As soon as this budget is finalized, we start the next fiscal year budget. It starts in earnest, I guess, in October when the department heads receive a copy and start their work, but then it goes to the Board of Education and the Board of Finance and through my office, and it is a long process that is performed, by and large, by volunteer boards like yours that work day in, day out to make sure that the community is successful. And I really want to thank you for that. The one thing I want to leave you with is if this is adopted with this next vote, this is the 4th tax cut that the city of Milford will have, back-to-back-to-back tax cuts. Historic, unprecedented, nowhere in the state of Connecticut can we boast that. 4 back-to-back-to-back tax cuts. That's crazy. And the discussion we're having now is not the size of the tax increase that places in surrounding communities are having. I don't know if you've been following the newspaper over the last couple of years, but you have towns talking about how they're having 10% tax increases, 12% tax increases, 16% tax increases, all in 1 year. The city of Milford has been debating how large our tax cut's going to be, and that's something significant.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Vitale.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Mayor, and to my colleagues. We sit here once a month, and plus our other duties, and we commiserate, we argue, debate, whatever we want to talk to it. But, we all will leave here tonight, hopefully looking at each other and saying thank you to each other, and I think everybody else is under that guise. But we sit here with two different philosophies, because we do. We have a D and we have an R. Sometimes I'd like to see no D, no R next to that voting machine or that piece of paper so that we can all vote for an individual who's totally, and I think we all have Milford in mind, that we want to do the best for our citizens, our kids in school and whatever. But sometimes we just need to look at what is going on, increasing year by year. The budget increases. I think we're at a $225 million total budget, $125 million from the Board of Education, $120 from the city side. I think these kinds of things need to be looked at. I don't know what education is going to look like in 10 years. I think I said that a couple of weeks ago, that 12 years ago, I said, I don't know what education would look like 10 years ago, and we're 12 years out. I'm 12 years out, and it didn't change very much because it's increasing in prices, and there are more, and more people that need to deliver the curriculum to our kids. But I think, all in all, we do what's best for Milford. And again, I have to say that it's been priceless sitting on this board. Now I have to congratulate Justin, who was a student of mine, Tony, who was a student of mine, Jay, who was a student of mine. And so it's priceless to know that I'm working together with these guys and to help run the city of Milford. And I would be remiss if I didn't say the fact that, could I have done a better job to say that we could save money in different areas as a group, as a minority? I don't think so, but the idea here is that we did put some things forward, and we talked to different ideas, that positions were a key fact for us, and we tried to see and show as far as the end product as to hiring a project manager, whether it be a needs basis or we're taking on ownership and keeping them as a pension and getting from the city and so forth. So it could have been a good idea, it could have been a bad idea. Who knows? We don't know how that would have turned out. But for those reasons, I think I cannot vote for this budget in true respect. So I do thank Mr. Chair. I think it's a tough job to sit up there and take everything from everybody and give it out. To the minority leader and the majority leaders, thank you. And Mr. Mayor, thank you. And to the colleagues on the board, thank you for all your work that you do.
Thank you, Alderman Vitale. Alderman Vecchiarelli.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I too would like to thank everybody on the board here, my across the aisle Republican friends, and my colleagues over here. It's been a nice ride. This budget here is, again, like what the mayor said, 4 years in a row where we've been able to have a tax decrease. And it's all because of us guys here. We've all respectfully done our very best. We've listened to all the people that have come before us. And we've all done our duty to try to come up with the best budget that we can. And at the end of the day, the Democrats and the Republicans, we weren't very far apart with, a $2 million some odd, dollar budget. And we're talking maybe $200,000 that, in and around there. So for the most part, we're all pretty much on the same page. We've all been really responsible, and our city is in the shape that it's in because of the fine people that take these positions, like all of our other boards, people that are unselfish and come out every night and they support whatever board they're on to do the best for the citizens of Milford. And I truly respect this board, each and every one of you. I think that you've all done a remarkable job, and we continue to do that. I would like to also thank the mayor, and especially our finance director, who is really the kind of, he's the man with all of the figures and numbers. And we most assuredly appreciate all that you help us do, and especially the mayor, to allow him to make all of these calculations and estimates. And you truly have been a very good person to have, and I thank you. And Mr. Mayor, I know you're a Democrat and I'm a Democrat, but you truly are, I think, one of the best mayors that I've worked under. I find the city in a very good state in all the different areas, and it doesn't just happen by accident. This board is largely responsible, but you are our leader, and we do take our marching orders to try to do what you see is the right way to go. And I must say that I have appreciated everything that you've done for this city. You've just moved us forward in so many different areas, and you've managed to maintain the services that we come to expect, and you've done it with not having to really raise our taxes, and I know that's hard to do, but I hope that you will continue to be the mayor of Milford for many years to come. I don't know how long you'll want to serve, but it is exciting to me to see somebody that is as talented and as smart as you are, saving the citizens of this town the money that you do and enhancing it as much as we've had it enhanced under your leadership. And I would just like to thank you personally. Thank you.
Any more discussion on the motion? Alderman Tranquilli.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you. I would also like to say that I've enjoyed working with this board. I think at the end of the day, when you're looking at a budget, I think all of us can probably find savings somewhere in the budget. But when you look at it, when I make my decision if I'm going to vote for the budget or not, I'm looking at the city as a whole. And I'm not looking at a D or an R. And the fact of the matter is, while we didn't really make any amendments today to save money, we've saved the taxpayers a little bit, given them a little bit of relief. So as little as it is, as small as it is, I can say that I am in favor of the budget because of that reason. Because at the end of the day, there is savings for the taxpayer. So I appreciate everybody on the board, and thank you.
Any more discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Madam Secretary, roll call vote, please.
Alderman Anderson,
Yes.
Alderman Beatty,
Yes.
Alderman Gaynor, Alderman Gurman,
Yes.
Alderman Genentasio. No. Alderman Golden. Yes. Alderman Grant,
Yes.
Alderman Hardeman. Yes. Alderman Smith,
Yes.
Alderman Sutton. Yes. Alderman Tranquilli,
Yes.
Alderman Beccarelli. Yes. Alderman Vitro,
Yes.
Alderman Vitale. No. 12 yeses, 2 noes.
12 yeses and 2 noes. The motion passes. The budget is complete. Thank you once again, all you aldermen on both sides, for all your nice comments. And we'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Motion has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting adjourned.
All right.